Hey YouTube, this is Crash1990, and today I have the conclusion to my sort of like deck building journey with the Sorcery TCG as far as the first set is concerned. These are the final decks and avatars that I have landed on, and I'm not going to be updating these basically until Arthurian Legends comes out, and I couldn't pick between which avatar to kind of like commit to. I equally love both of these, and I can't pick between them. They're both hands down my favorite avatars for the all of the avatars that are currently out. When the game first came out, I was actually more excited about this. I didn't even know Pathfinder existed. I kind of discovered it while opening it up in my alpha booster box. In fact, this is the alpha one that I got from that box. This was quite a pleasant surprise finding out how cool this avatar and ultimately this deck and how I have it built. And then I have this included. I got my cool promo ruins here, but this just kind of goes along with these. So I figured I'd be kind of cheeky and just kind of include that stuff. So I want to say this video isn't quite a deck tech video, though deck lists for both of these will be in the description down below. And I will be kind of including like some like strategy talk between them, but if you've been subscribed to my channel for the last year since this game came out, I have been posting quite a few deck techs, not to the point where I'm just doing it just to push content out, but it was actual like builds and brews that I was experimenting with certain avatars, mostly being these two, though Battle Mage was in there for quite a while as well. And I'll start talking about Pathfinder, and mainly because this is the one I probably play the most, but I do love my deathspeaker deck. But yeah, I also wanted to do some like retrospective conversation on how great this whole process has been. I have never played a card game where it's just one set and I have delved into it this deep and done this many like deck ideas and brews. Like I've done a lot with stuff with like Magic and whatnot, but that was multiple sets at a time and all this other stuff. Like one freaking set, and I have been here for a year, and I've mainly just focused on these two. I've played every avatar at least once, but I feel like I could go deeper with this, but both of these decks are to a point where I'm really happy with them and I'm content with them, and I'm actually quite proud of them. So yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I have never had an experience like this with any card game I've ever played, and I just want to. I couldn't stress enough how important that I think that is, and how much better it's going to be when we do get more and more sets. Like I think one set a year for this game is perfect because it takes a year to really delve into this stuff and digest it properly. And I feel like I'm still just a scrub at this game too at the same time. But yeah, anyway, with all that aside, I will mention these decks are not competitively built, though there are expensive cards in them. I'll talk about what to replace if you don't have like what is it like Philosopher's Stone or the cores and whatnot. Again, they're not end all be all. You don't need them. I have them, so I use them, kind of a thing. But I'll get into that later. Did I just like mix up this entire deck? I did. One sec. I have this all like in order, so it'd be easier to talk about. There we go. So if you've seen a previous Pathfinder list of mine, it's all about taking control of your opponent's sites, and it's like a ramp big Timmy type of deck if you're familiar with the Magic terms. Basically, it plays a bunch of big dudes, big chunguses, and it pressures your opponent in the long run. And this is an air earth deck, and if you don't know Pathfinder, I'll briefly explain it. Your Atlas can only have one copy of any card, so you can't have like the max copies. Max copy is one, and you can't like tap to draw sites. It basically you tap him, you put the top card of your Atlas into play, and then it moves there. And you don't even get Atlas cards in your hand at the start of the game too. So he's, I think, really good for new players. I also think he's really difficult for new players at the same time. Easy because he takes out the aspect of having to draw sites, what sites to play. It just does it for you. Difficult in the sense that Pathfinder is really good at putting itself in danger because it has to constantly be moving. So kind of tit for tat there. Yeah, anyway, we just, like I said, it's a air earth deck, and we're kind of limited on the sites that we play. So these are the ones that I play. Not really. This one's good for protecting your avatar for a while, and I'm sorry, there's a huge glare. The lighting in this room is pretty terrible. But it's basically just the generic earth and air sites until we get more of a variety. So obviously, if you're playing air, you're playing observatory. It's one of the. It might actually be the best air site, though the towers are also equally as great. I got a cool foil dark tower too. And then for the utility sites, I do play Donnybrook in because we play a bunch of big beefy dudes, so I want them to be cheaper. And if our opponent is playing stuff to our site, we don't really care because we have bigger stuff to kill it with. And I'll go over this card in a second. But again, if you're familiar with my deck techs, get your play sets of crossroads, put them in every deck. It's like the equivalent of a fetch land for us right now. This is my #1 most played sorcery card. I put it into every single deck I build. And then bottomless pit is also a good protective site. Have your pathfinder just sitting there, and if they don't have like ranged like magic spells or airborne stuff, yeah, good luck getting you. So this site is incredibly funny. It's a Vault of Zul. And I've recently, this is like one of the newer additions that I put into this deck. And basically, the first time an avatar moves here, they skip their next turn and draw 3 cards. That will always be you, like always. So this card is always just when you reveal it, draw 3. It's pretty awesome. I think it's worth skipping the turn. It's a pretty fun card. Now for the rest of the deck, I'll separate all the earth stuff from the air stuff from the colorless stuff. Lots of stuff here. So yeah, Earth. It's all about stealing our opponent's sites. So Conqueror Worm does exactly that, and it's an 8-power minion. Very good. Mountain Giant is also an 8-cost, 8-power minion that takes it sits on 4 sites. So then you give it Land Deed, and you gain control of all 4 sites. So this thing can really be a detriment to your opponents. Like they kind of have to answer it, and typically the game's over in a turn or 2 by the time you play it anyway. But I love Mountain Giant, and I think it's hilarious giving it a land deed and stealing all your opponent's stuff. Atlas Wanderers is just another good beefy unit that can position yourself or other things, like setting stuff up for Pudge Butcher if they escape your Pudge Butchers. It's just a good utility card that also swings in for 5. And then my favorite sorcery card, Pudge Butcher. I am obviously running a full set of them. Got some nice foily ones that look, the lighting is at least showing the foil, so that's cool. Then I got my cool Dusk Reward promo one because I had to get it because there's a little butt and there's little tiny feet. Freaking, this art is so, oh my god, I want a playset of that art so bad. Oh, that's so good. Okay, anyway, so Pudge Butcher's great. It's one of the better minions in the game. And then these 7 cards are all ramp cards. Frontier Settlers is what I call a mini Pathfinder. It essentially does what Pathfinder does, but only once, and then it loses the ability. So its flavor is a 10 out of 10, and it's also just a good card. Yeah, it gets you a side out, and then it can start swinging stuff for one, or just being annoying, or being a good chump blocker, all that good stuff. And then our like Lana War Elves of the game is Alvalinne Dryads. It's a 2-cost 1-power minion that just gives you a mana. Got some cool foil ones, and yeah, good utility card. I will say with the Alvalinne Dryads, if you build this deck and put them in here, don't be afraid to use them. Like, don't just park them in the back and have them be generating mana. Like, it's good when you do that, but have them like attack sites, and don't be afraid to trade with things with these two if need be. Now for the air cards, it's pretty self-explanatory, really. Lord of the Void doesn't just like, it doesn't take over sites, but it just completely deletes them, which is super cool. But again, he's 9 cost with 0 power, and obviously he's got the Void Walk. But yeah, it's, at the end of your turn, Lord of the Void may banish an adjacent site unless there's an avatar there. So if there's things on that site, I think banish. I don't know if it gets replaced with ruins or not. Because I've never actually been able to, like, the game's never gone long enough for me to play this card, or if I had the option, I would always go Conqueror Worm because 8 power is great. But I think it just leaves a void. I'm not totally sure on that. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens. But either way, deleting sites, if you ever do get this card and play it, is very, very good. And I do love the artwork on this card quite a bit. Highland Princess, I will put it down here because this is one of the money cards you could replace, and it's only ever really good if you're playing all the other money cards. But if you don't know what she does, she essentially searches out pretty much one of these three cards. You could get the mixes, but getting the cores is much, much better. And where am I? All right, let's put this back over here. Grandmaster Wizard, again, just a great card, one of the best air cards in the game. 6 cost, spellcaster, draw 3 spells, 0 power, pretty self-explanatory. With Apprentice Wizards, also self-explanatory. It's like a mini Grandmaster Wizard. Seeing he's the apprentice makes sense. And Browse is another money card that I'll set down here. You don't have to have this card. It's basically a tutor card. It's a 1 cost. Look at the top 7 of your spellbook. Choose one of them, put it in your hand, and then put the rest on the bottom of your spellbook in any order. So this digs for whatever you need whenever you need it. This is an expensive card just like this. So again, they're not needed. They are very, very good though if you have them. And again, if I'm playing air, I am playing for Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt's great. It's just a great way to finish off the opposing avatar and just kill good utility stuff early game. And then Grapple Shot. If I'm playing air, I am definitely playing some amount of Grapple Shot. I'm actually surprised that this is an ordinary. The more and more I play this game, the more and more I realize this probably shouldn't have been an ordinary. Probably should have been like an elite, or at the very least an exceptional. This card's insane. 3 cost, you have an ally, shoot a projectile. If it hits a unit, the ally is dragged to that location and it strikes them. That is not an attack. That is just free damage. The minion is still untapped. They can then tap to attack. Or you can tap, attack something, and then grapple shot away to strike something else. Like, this card's insane. You get to do 2 things for 1 and still be up for attacking. Like, the card's gross. This card's absolutely gross, and I love it. See, I keep those down there. And for the artifacts, we have, again, quite a few of them because I am running all the powerhouse stuff. But a landy does exactly what I want the deck to do. Just the bearer controls the site where it's at. If you're playing Pathfinder, I hands down recommend you get a Magellan Globe. It basically makes all edges of the realm connected. So it opens up Pathfinder's mobility and it prevents Pathfinder from getting cornered too easily. So Magellan Globe is great. I'll go over these 3 in a second. I'll go over the mixes first. I think the mixes, one, they're cheap. So they're like $5 a piece, which isn't bad. Honestly, just get your playset of mixes. I think they're great. They basically are 1 cost, and then you can sack them out to make something cost 3 less and require no threshold. So this one does it for earth, this one does it for air. So again, you can like cheat out your big stuff a lot faster. So again, I don't consider these the expensive cards. These though are not cheap. At least the cores are starting to drop in price. They're like 40, 50 bucks ish, depending on which one you're getting. A lot better than like 60 and 70 they used to be. And Philosopher's Stone is still sitting around like that 100, 120 range, or 150. It's kind of a weird card when it comes in the market. If you have them, great. Use them in here. They do reduce cost of stuff or give you additional mana, which is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to ramp. But again, I don't think these are 100% necessary. So don't feel like you have to get them. I would focus on getting the other stuff first if you don't have it, and then getting these as like your last kind of final purchases, all like 5 of these. And if you don't have these and you don't have any interest in buying them, which I don't blame you, you could run like Blink or Teleport, which are good air cards. They're good movement positional stuff for teleporting your Pudge Butchers to a good location or getting your Pathfinder out of danger. Those are very key. And then we do run an Earth site that gives everything burrowing. We do that to tech against cards like Earthquake and Burrow. But if you want to run those cards, cut out that site and then throw in Earthquake and like 3 Burrow or 3 Bury or whatever. Just like good generic Earth removal. It's always a good choice. Or you can always just run Common Sense. Common Sense can search for a plethora of cards that are great in this deck. So if you have those, and those are, they're all good cards, and you want like a more budget option, I would run those over these. So anyway, that is the Pathfinder list that I have pretty much finalized myself on. It's exactly what I want to do. It's consistent enough to get the job done, but there's also enough There's also enough random cards in here to keep the game fresh, though still I have not ever like played this card and got to do what I wanted to do with it. But one day. And in fact, I will look into the rules. I'm pretty sure banish means that it does not get replaced with rubble, which is cool because then it just auto kills everything that's there, if that's the case, which it should, because that's a freaking 9-cost minion. And actually, we'll move Pathfinder way over here. All right, Deathspeaker. This deck has gone through a lot of changes. In fact, my first Pathfinder and Deathspeaker decks, pretty sure the elements were reversed. My first Pathfinder deck was a water fire deck, and my first Deathspeaker deck, pretty sure was air earth. Maybe had fire in it, but I think it was mostly air earth, and it was like a mid-rangey kind of a build. This deck is also a mid-rangey build. Deathspeaker just kind of, that's just kind of how it goes with Deathspeaker. More either control or mid-range. Typically pretty mid-range though. Let's put that over there. So again, if you're not familiar with Deathspeaker, you pretty much get all your dead stuff. You can cast one dead dude, and basically it comes in and then it vanishes. It goes away forever. And the whole point of that is you get Genesis abilities off of minions that have them. So all your Genesis stuff can get value when you play it, and then when it's dead, it can get value a second time. So it's like running 2 copies of like every Genesis card. Though you don't get to like block or attack with it, you just get the Genesis ability and then it vanishes. And then if you're on Death's Door, you get to do it for free, which is pretty sweet. And so the sites being a fire water deck, obviously you're running the Oasis. River of Flame is cool. It's a spellcaster. There's a card in here that lets us draw a bunch of cards, and then you either lose half your life or sack out the spellcaster. You could sack this out to it because it is technically a spellcaster. And then Smokestacks of Gnaak, or however the hell you pronounce that card, it just nullifies all other nearby sites. So it could be pretty good, and depending on the matchup, I just love the artwork, so I play it. Mirage is great for any of our Genesis stuff. Our Genesis sites like our deserts, shifting sands, or tadpole pools. You can play the pools, gain your frogs, play the Mirage, return this to your hand, Mirage goes to where it's at, and then you play it again, get the frog tokens again. Same with the rivers. You can, bounce the rivers to replay them to kind of fix your draws a little bit more, and they are pretty key with a card we play in the deck. It's a mermaid. And then Geistwood, and again, I need to work on the lighting in my room, so I apologize for that. Geistwood is definitely the best site in this deck. It says Genesis abilities here also are Deathrite abilities. That's just absolutely insane. It's so good, especially with things that like draw cards. You play them, draw cards, sack them out to an ability that draws you cards, and then this will draw you more cards. Like, yeah, Geistwood's insane. And then again, you're playing Sorcery, you're playing Crossroads. Like, just start your Atlas building with 2 Crossroads already in and picking 18 additional cards. So, pretty straightforward there. Now the deck, I'll separate all the fire from the water. And it's mostly fire, splashing water, again, with some artifacts. And again, I will tell you what to cut if you don't want to, what to replace them with, basically, if you don't have them or don't want to buy them. And again, totally don't blame you. They're not necessary. I own them, so I'm going to play them. So, fire cards. We are running obviously, Death Dealer. It's probably the best Genesis card in the game. This card's insane. You play it, it wraths the board. Everything but it. Well, as far as minions go. And it's also a 4-power dude, and he's got sick Brian Smith artwork. So, I've had a game where I wrathed the board. It was like 4 or 5 times with this guy because of crap like Fey Changeling and Upwelling. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. And if you get to pull it off, it's even nuttier. Courtesan Thassus is a good Genesis card too. It basically makes people control other people's turns. So you can set up your opponent for like the kill and then go and kill them off. Like Courtesan Thassus is like a good kind of like a finisher. Yeah. And plus, great artwork as well by Drew Tucker. Bane Widow, just a 4-cost, 1-power minion, and it kills anything that you play it to the site. So if people have like big stuff on your sites, you play them, you play this and destroy them, and it's a good, just kind of like a late game kind of a kill card, because they're more than likely going to be on your sites anyway. And then Clamor of Harpies. It's an airborne unit with 3 power, which is pretty decent. I don't really play a whole lot of airborne, so it's good to have some options. And then its Genesis says you teleport a weaker minion here, and then they get to strike it. So it's kind of like a removal card as well, just like the Bane Widow. But it has airborne. And probably the most played fire card I have, which is Vile Imp. Vile Imp is great. 2 cost, 2 power, Genesis. You do 2 damage to an adjacent unit. That can do avatars, that can do minions. Vile Imp is just great. And being able to recur it and get that value over and over again is really, really good. And this is another really cool tech card I put in here. Cauldron Crones, if you're unfamiliar with these. They're a 3 cost, 1 power. They are a spellcaster, though I don't... It kind of can matter with firebolts, but it doesn't really come up all that often with me personally. But it says Genesis, you may sacrifice another minion here if you do draw a spell. So you're going to be sacrificing something that has Genesis, which can then be replayed off of Deathspeaker, while also drawing you a card off of this. And if you have Geistwood and the thing you sacked out is on Geistwood, you get their Genesis ability again. So it's just a lot of like combo stacking. And that's kind of like the whole point behind this deck and why I made it. And it gets pretty crazy. Some of your turns can take a long time because you're churning and burning through your deck and you're playing minions like crazy and just recycling everything. It can get crazy. Next is another really cool tech card I like playing in this deck. In fact, I love this card in this deck. It's a Pact of the Devil. 4 cost, sack the caster or lose half your life rounding up. And if you do, draw 3 cards. So if you don't want to sacrifice anything that's in play, and you have River of Flame in play, because it is a fire spellcaster, you can just sack out your site to draw 3 spells. Or again, you can sack out any of this stuff and then replay it off of Deathspeaker and gain that Genesis value. So yeah, Pact of the Devil is really cool. And then finally, this is our like a lightning bolt equivalent. It's fire bolts. This is a way to kill off our opposing avatar if they're on death's door and they're trying to play like a come catch me game. You can just firebolt them. It will typically get the job done. And now for water cards. This is like the tech cards for the deck that really get those gears moving and turning really fast. So Selfsame Simulacrum, it's a 4 cost and it is summoned as a basic copy of a nearby minion. I looked up on the FAQ, it does trigger Genesis effects. So this is basically, it's not a Genesis ability, but it's basically a Genesis ability that will copy a Genesis ability off of something else you have. Very cool. Though it has not really it can have some use with Deathspeaker, but it's a little more difficult because the whole positioning and stuff. It's easier to do it on like your terms unless you're really, I don't know. There's better things to be spending your 4 mana on off of stuff in your graveyard like this, off of doing other self-same simulacrum type stuff. It's a little more, I don't know. I typically don't do it a whole lot, but it's great when you like play it and get to copy something. You can also copy your opponent's stuff, which I do. Honestly, I probably do that more than anything else, especially because my girlfriend plays a bunch of big, like the Kraken stuff. So this typically gets copied as a Kraken, but it can copy Genesis stuff, which is great. So good to keep that in mind. And then Fey Changeling. This card is insane and one of the better cards in the deck as well. The fact that it can be summoned to any side is really key. And it says Genesis, you may return a minion here to its owner's hand. So you can like return your Death Dealer back or any of your other Genesis stuff, or if they play something better that you copied with, you can bounce your Self-Sim Simulacrum back. This card is how I was like being able to wrath the board a bunch of times with Death Dealer. Like over and over and over again. And that game was gross. So if you want to run blue and Deathspeaker, I highly recommend running at least these 3 along with these 4. This, I personally love this card, so I'm obviously going to run it. I don't think it's a necessity though for it. Next is the Deep Sea Mermaids. It's basically our apprentice wizards, but it's hard to say if it's better or not. It has Submerge, which never really comes up for me. But it says Genesis, draw the bottommost spell. So if you have like your rivers, and the top card of your deck is really good, and you have this in your hand, you could still put that good card on the bottom of the deck to try and dig even further down, and then play this and still get that good card, which is pretty cool. It doesn't force you to keep the good card on the top and then draw it, and then you're kind of just, you know, blindly digging or doing more effort to dig further. You can put that card on the bottom, and then you can still draw it anyway and still gain deeper access in your deck without having to limit yourself on where the good card goes. So deep sea mermaids are great. And then finally for the blue cards, I have 3 Upwelling, and it just says target a nearby site, return each artifact and minion there to its owner's hand. So you can bounce your stuff and then replay it again. It's kind of the whole point. You want to just like, it's almost like a flicker deck for Magic, where you just want to get all these good ETB effects, bounce them to your hand, and then play them all again and get them again. And if they die, you get them again. This deck is all about value, getting the most value out of the cards that you are playing, and it does it very, very well. And then lastly for this deck too, it's all the artifact stuff, the same pretty much as Pathfinder. The 2 cores and Philosopher's Stone, and then 2 copies of each mix. The mix Aqua isn't as needed, but at the same time, mixes are great with Deathspeaker because they let you cast your stuff from your graveyard a lot cheaper, which gives you more access to your mana for the cards in your hand. So I do highly recommend, again, getting the mixes for this deck. They are good. If you don't have these, again, don't worry about it. There's great cards in both of these colors. If you want more beef, get like a double Kraken and like Diluvian Kraken and a great old one. Or if you need more removal, or if you want more beefier red cards, you can do the Dragon with Airborne that taps to shoot stuff. You can do like Major Explosion, which is another great card. It's kind of up to you on that one. Both of these colors have a lot of good cards that don't necessarily fit the theme, but will get the job done without you dropping like $250 some on 3 cards. So again, I have them, so I'm going to play them. But anyway, these are the 2 decks that I have landed on that I am stuck with. No, I wouldn't say stuck with, but that I am incredibly happy and proud of to be playing. And yeah, I don't feel a need to change them or modify them in any way until Arthurian Legends comes out. And even then, I don't know. I mean, it really just, it depends. It depends on things that fit the themes of these decks. I might just build 2 other brand new decks. And as far as replacing these avatars as my favorite, this game's going to have to really make something awesome for these 2 avatars to like get dethroned as my favorites. So anyway, that is the like deck discussion, kind of retrospective talk. Again, I am so glad I backed the Kickstarter and got my box, my 1 alpha box when I did, and then did my pre-order with Team Covenant when I did as well. I ordered, I've gone through 10 boxes total of Sorcery, 1 alpha and 9 beta, and it has just been such a joy and such a pleasure to really just delve into this game and experience it. And I still feel like I have only scratched the surface with this game, and I've never experienced something like that with a card game before. It caught me off guard. It really did. And I just want to thank Eric's Curiosa and the Sorcery team for just creating this game and putting it out. It's really revitalized my passion for card games. I've loved card games my whole life, but this game really has kind of got me like amped. And Sorcery Con in Vegas, I can't wait. I will be there. If you see me there, you'll probably recognize me for all the tattoos that I have. Feel free to say hi and stuff. I'm altering a bunch of cards. I'll have a bunch of alters there for trade. I'll be bringing my trades and playing games and doing the pre-release sealed stuff for whatever's going on. I won't be playing competitively, and if there's like a competitive event, I'm not really into that personally. But yeah, if you're going to Sorcery Con and see me there, please like say hi and talk to me. I'd love to meet any of you that are out there and talk with all of you. So, and again, thank you all as well. I recently hit 500 subs, which is insane. I am like super humbled and blown away by that. I didn't think I'd get to that point until near the end of the year. So thank you all for subscribing and watching, and enjoying my content. Again, I'm just trying to make good, useful stuff that I personally would want to see, and I'm glad it's gaining some traction, to say the least. So anyway, that's the video, and enough of me rambling for a half hour. If any of you watched this long, thank you. And yeah, just make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you all later. See ya.